We'll go with Mark and Brandon. Enjoy.
Thanks, Benny. Morning, everybody.
Morning.
So I'm glad to see some new faces from yesterday. Good crowd. So we'll go ahead and get started. So this was kind of one of those interesting things that we did 4 years ago. Brandon and I have lived and worked together for a number of years since early 2011. So this was an old thing that we did, and it ended up being probably one of the funniest experiences I think we've ever had working together. So a little bit about ourselves. IT security professional for a number of years. So I actually graduated from Ohio University, just north of here. So Parkersburg was kind of our place to go get Everclear when it was allowed to be sold in West Virginia for anybody. So yeah, lost cause. We'll try and talk louder. Let me know if you can't hear us. Became a IT security professional and brew beer at night, as it says. So
so I'm been in the IT security field for almost 10 years now. Just you name a area of expertise, I've probably done it in one form or another. Specialized in forensics, but I've done pen testing and auditing and all the fun stuff.
Auditing's not fun.
Yeah,
we've been there.
Yeah.
So, little background. I worked for a defense contractor, and there's a lot of secure information or information that needs to be secured, and it's kind of the early days of making sure that when you stepped away from your computer, nobody got on it. So the management was really adamant on us locking our machines as we walk away. They had these big signs on the wall that said, hit Control-Alt-Delete and then lock computer. And it always pissed me off because Window key L locks a Windows machine quicker than Control-Alt-Delete. So when people didn't lock their computers, we got into it doing a ton of, fun things. Sending a love letter to the boss, emailing the entire team, your obsession with something embarrassing, setting desktop backgrounds is something funny, which is where we're going today. So that's the image that we got into setting people's backgrounds. We couldn't go with something that was a little not safe for work, so we figured that is probably one of the most embarrassing things that you could probably have as your desktop background in a corporate IT environment. So that's what we went with. And then skipping forward, I moved to Charleston, South Carolina, where Brandon was working and living, and we worked for another defense contractor. And there was a lot of kids that had just come out of college, and we like to consider ourselves the old guys in our late 20s at the time. So we decided one night after drinking a handful of beers, we were talking about that, like, we got to get these people back for not locking their computers. So we're sitting there going, like, there's got to be a way we can do this automatically instead of having to go out to Google and download an image and then set as desktop background. They're going to catch you at some point.
The idea is be a ninja. Just get in and get out really quickly.
So
we kind of started sitting down and thinking about this and drinking a lot of beers and figured, okay, there's got to be a way to automate some of this stuff. And neither one of us are big Windows geeks. We're either Mac or Unix. I come from a bit of a bash background, and Mark came up under Corn Shell. The only Windows scripting I knew was trying to modify an auto exec bat and config sys to get my Sound Blaster working many, many years ago. So, we're not really Windows geeks. So we're like, okay, let's get a few beers and start Googling, okay, how can we automate setting somebody's background, getting it installed, getting it to run, and more importantly, getting it to run consistently so that they can't just change it and it goes back. So, we came up with some ideas about this. Could we figure out a way to use some Windows scripts or MS-DOS batch scripting, change out the desktop image, modify the registry so that it's persistent, and then make it so that it just keeps changing the background even if you reset it? So
we kind of came up with a list of things we knew how to do. Manually set a desktop background. We could all write really bad code. We didn't have development backgrounds. We're all hobbyists.
I have an announcement. We have a gentleman that forgot his badge, so he has to pay for it somehow. So he's going to have to hula hoop in front of a group.
Boo. You need more hips.
So remember, if you forget your badge tomorrow, you got to hula hoop. Or something else, it might be different.
We also knew how to break Windows, but is that really that hard? Use Google and drink beer. We needed to learn a lot of things, like how to set a desktop background image via the command line, which is not as easy as you'd think. There isn't just a set desktop background command line flag. But we also need to know how to install something without the user being able to see it or have any awareness of it. So how do you do that? Avoid antivirus software, security software that might detect unknown applications, things like that. So, and we didn't know when to stop drinking beer, which is probably what led us to nearly falling out of our chairs from laughter.
So for those of you familiar with the Scrum process, we kind of dug through this really quickly and just sort of jumped on it and said, okay, we need a way to hide the thing, some sort of logic, and a script to change it. So with that, okay, well, this is My Little Pony. That's 3 words. Perfect. So we split the script into 3 parts. One part will do the install. One part will actually change all the command line functions. The other one will actually change and set the wallpaper. So
we created the initial script, which is the My VBS, and all it does is hide everything. There's a really cool flag in it, and we'll show the code here towards the end, and we're going to release the code to everybody. But it basically just hides any window. It suppresses it so that when you execute something, there isn't like a black command window flash like you'll see, if somebody has install or startup scripts on their Windows environment. So it's 3 lines of code. It's super simple. We didn't know this. This is just a Googling that got us there. And then it basically just executes the little.bat.
So within Windows XP, there isn't a built-in sleep function like there is in Windows 7 and some of the later editions. So we actually had to go to Microsoft's site and get like an old MS-DOS sleep command to be able to get this to work. So basically the script just calls sleep.exe and it sets a timer on it that's a randomly generated number that corresponds between either 0 minutes or 60 minutes. So within 1 hour, this script will rerun, and this script just actually sets the desktop background. So it'll just say, okay, sleep.exe for 35 minutes. After 35 minutes, it'll just rerun the command again, and then set another random pause. So every hour, sometime in that hour, this script will rerun once it gets installed. So the script just executes the ponies, which actually runs and sets the desktop command and refreshes the desktop. And up to this point, we're only at a total of 10 lines of code.
So the last script is the ponies.bat, and it's basically 10 lines of code. It sets a registry entry for the bitmap image that we called winter.bmp. So if somebody tries to search for pony or anything like that, they're not going to get an image that shows that. And it actually then sets 3 other registry values that just say how to render it on the screen, because you know how you can do it a tile view, a stretched view, and all that. And then it just basically goes back to the beginning and runs the previous script for the sleep command. So it's a total of 10 lines of code, and then we kind of ran into a problem.
Yeah, so all the scripts run really well. I mean, you run the mine, it'll cascade and run the second script, run the third script, but we needed some sort of wrapper to really get it all installed and running and in memory and actually working. So, it was kind of a pain that, okay, you put a USB stick in somebody's computer and you've got to copy all these 3 files over, and then you got to hide them somewhere, and then you got to create all this desktop, and the entire point was we wanted this thing to be quick and lightweight. You just go in, download this file, and hit go. So we ran another installer script that's basically just an Xcopy over to a directory we chose to C-lock your computer, and just copies all the scripts over and kicks off the process. So it makes it a little bit easier than trying to run through and get all these scripts running and get them installed in the box and run it, make sure it works. So literally you just hit this thing, hit go, it installs it and gets it in memory and gets it running and starts it so it's persistent in the Windows registry as they reboot.
So yeah, basically upon every reboot, it starts itself over. So even if somebody reboots their computer or deletes the image and changes it back, it's coming back. There's no way around this unless you start doing some digging. So now that we've developed the code and after a number of mistakes, one thing you should always do is do exit at the end of a script. We ran an issue where we executed it and it was a loop. And we had probably 10,000 command windows open up and our computer just crashed. It just ran out of memory like that. So,
and because we had a persistent registry, it would reboot and keep doing the same thing. So we ended up having to get get into safe mode and actually disable everything. Yeah. But I was like, oh, maybe we should test this stuff before we start running it.
But we were probably, a case of beer deep at that point. So, yeah, so the next mission was acquire targets. So we took this to work on a flash drive, and there's only about 4 or 5 of us that knew how this and knew of this. So we actually had another roommate that helped develop all this that couldn't be here today. And then another person that I currently live with that actually helped us get it on the first computer. So we would, look around, somebody get up and go get their coffee in the morning, and bam, ponied. Go to the bathroom, didn't lock their computer, bam, ponied. And one of the funnier ones, we'll get in more details, is a guy was actually having his motherboard replaced by the Dell technician, and bam, ponied.
Yeah, got up and walked away.
So we took it a little bit further, and we hit a recent college grad named Zach, and we left their names intentional for shaming still to this day. So Zach never locked anything, including his car or his computer. And we're not in the safest area of Charleston. We're actually in North Charleston, South Carolina, if anybody has ever been there. There's a little bit of poverty there, and so there's car break-ins that do happen. So we always laughed at that and go, how do you not lock your car at least? So he never locked his computer. We got him. And the entire day, randomly within an hour, we heard him like, come on, I locked my computer, like completely unaware of what was going on with this. And, he's starting to get paranoid and he's keeping his windows open really large. But if you lock your computer, then your secondary screen just shows your desktop background at this point. So he's like looking around his shoulder and just kind of like, what's going on? And he's blaming the other guy that has no idea what's going on in the office. And we're all like, we're trying not to laugh because it's so funny. He's about ready to cry at some point. So we go to lunch and we're like, we gotta keep this going. So we go to Target Toys R Us. 4 middle-aged 20-something-year-olds went to Target and bought a My Little Pony figure and put it on the dash of his car because he never locked his car. And we get in the office after lunch and like, Zach, I think somebody left your car door open. He's like, no. You're like, no, I can tell from here. We just walked by it. So we get him to go out to his car. He locks his computer. He goes out to his car and he sees this figurine on his dash and he comes back in and he's just livid. And he then logs into his computer and bam, ponied. It switched while he locked his computer. And he was just like, it was locked, I know! And, we're all literally rolling on the floor laughing at this point. Just eventually we kind of said, okay, hold on.
We clued him in.
We clued him in and told him.
And we wrote an uninstaller script that'll just erase everything. So we just said, in the future, just make sure you lock your computer. We do have a lot of sensitive information and kind of used it as more of a teaching moment.
But then there's Scott.
So he's an older guy, but he kind of thought a lot of himself, put it that way. So he was the guy who had a Dell technician in replacing his computer. So he was in the cube next to me, and he got up one day, I kind of walked over and ran it, snuck back around. So it kept going off, and this went on for probably 2 or 3 days before he finally, thought he had a virus, was sending out emails to everybody, hey, there's some virus going around that changes your background, everybody needs to watch out for it.
Junk McAfee can't find anything.
This stupid McAfee antivirus can't find anything. So he finally got really irritated and just like, I'm going to roll, some heads are going to roll if I find out who did this to me. So we never ended up telling him, years later. So this kind of funny side story. So I just got married this past June, and my wife's from Charleston, South Carolina, so we were down there. and the woman who was the officiant for a wedding was his wife. Like,
No
unbeknownst to us, like, we just found this officiant on the internet and was doing it, and it's like, hey, we know each other. That's really random. So we actually told her about the story, because he still talks about it to this day. Well, these guys, somebody got me, and I found out who's going to do it. And, like, we told her, like, it was us. So he actually just found out pretty recently, like 4 years later.
So I think everybody's probably bored with our own internal laughter. So you want to see a demo? So
So fingers crossed that this works.
I modified the script so that we don't have to worry about waiting some random time over the next hour. But I do want to show you a couple things. So this is the run startup in the registry. As you can see, it's just OneDrive, which is just junk. And this is a Windows 10 desktop. There's nothing in here. Just seeing a registry editor. It's a clean, fresh Windows install. And this actually works without any admin rights, by the way. It will just work. And here's your C drive. There's just normal stuff. So, whoa, those are big icons now. Yeah. So, nope, that's not what I wanted. Okay, so we just have this install script right here. And if you actually, I'll show you before we get going. Here's the sleep one, and I changed it to just do 30 seconds. And that's all there is to the sleep exe. So, let's go ahead and run it.
And this is one of those blink and you'll miss it.
So, it's been installed. Let's refresh the refresh. Oh, look at that. My Little Ponies. And local disk C. Oh, lock your computer. And here's the task manager.
It's in there somewhere. Windows command.
It's right there. It just looks like a command window has been running. So, we give it another 15 seconds or so. We will watch it in action, and then I'll show you what happens. Well, I guess fingers crossed. These things never work. We've been to a number of conferences, and people are like, I should have recorded this video. So.
Yeah, of course it isn't working now.
No, it is. It still hasn't hit 30 seconds.
It hasn't.
That's my guess. I remember the 45 seconds was a really long period of time.
Yeah. Come on.
Let's make sure I modified the script appropriately. No, we're good. Yeah. Of course, these things never work the way that they're supposed to.
We had it working last night. It just did it.
This thing's worked flawlessly every other time.
Yeah, of course. You get in front of a group of people and everything just goes...
Alright, let's make sure the script is actually appropriate.
There's plenty of stuff at. Okay.
Alright, let's try this again.
It ran it again. I'll just run the ponies and see if it'll...
Alright, so normally this will auto-refresh, and of course things never work the way they're supposed to. But we've got another option, so... How do you log off on this? got another user that I know this works under, so. Suspect I put the wrong. Okay. So let's try this again. Okay. So in 10 seconds, hopefully this will work the way that it has worked flawlessly. I wonder if it's the screen size.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe the bitmap's too big for the...
So I think what the issue is that the screen size... There it is.
Hey.
There we go.
Finally.
So now it is going to be running every 10 seconds. So let me see if I can quickly go in and delete everything. So if you go here, if you look, there's winter, and it actually copies the image from another location. So if you change your desktop background back, even if you delete that file within 10 seconds because of the way we modified the script, it should automatically go back and change it again. So, and if you reboot the computer, it comes back. Now, we were nice enough to put in your lock your computer. There's a little README. And it kind of tells you how to remove the whole thing. And apparently Windows doesn't want to play friendly. But needless to say, when you're apparently not connected over VGA to a projector, this works consistently. I tested it ad nauseum.
Yeah, we were playing with it last night just to make sure. And
yeah.
I don't know what the deal is. It's because we're in front of people. That's
yeah. So we put it up on GitHub. There aren't any bugs in it. We write flawless code. No.
Sure.
But yeah, it does in fact update regularly, and the version on there right now is set to do 1 second to 1 hour, whatever image you want, as long as you either modify the script to that image name or name it winter.bitmap. Windows requires a bitmap file of all things for your desktop background. You can't just set it as a JPEG. So that was one of the things that we learned. A couple other things that we learned. It's actually incredibly easy, even with admin rights, to do quite a bit of damage to somebody's computer. You can write to the root C. As you can see, we were able to create a directory in there. You can write to the registry, which is appalling if you have a lockdown machine. We've tried this.
Especially for persistence, where you can just have stuff just write to either run or the run once, where it'll just run and be gone, and then you just have this virus running in the background. So yeah, it's pretty amazing that in 2015, even we wrote this code for Windows XP, and it still works on Windows 10.
And it works on Windows 8.
It works on Windows 7. It works on Windows 8. I mean, it was amazing to us when we started, knew we were going to talk about this. I'm like, I wonder if this thing even works on Windows 10. Sure enough.
Yeah.
You can lock down root so you can't write.
Yes, but
we will always be able to write to the user's profile.
Yep.
Yes.
So there's always a place.
Yeah, exactly. And it doesn't have to go into C. You can execute this anywhere. It doesn't require any elevated rights to run because it's just a command window. It's calling a DLL that probably existed in Windows 3.1 that they have not, gotten rid of. And some of the more interesting things is, theoretically this could be a pretty easy prank to play on somebody, but could also do things like phone home. You could modify a lot of things on somebody's computer and be able to, take this and actually do things that are malicious. We had a kind of a theory that, with portable apps being present, you could write some pretty simple logic to look for shortcuts on somebody's desktop. They have Chrome or Firefox. We're going to switch them over to an outdated version of a portable browser so that we can then exploit them whenever they open up their homepage. There's a lot of security ramifications
so
to this.
Chrome does have a portable version, and it does come statically linked with whatever version of Flash that version at the time had. So you could copy over somebody's regular Chrome.exe, put your portable version that now has Flash that's 2 or 3 versions out of date. And now you know they have a wrong version. You can force them to do your own web page and do a drive-by download really easily.
So that's, kind of where we were appalled by it. Just going like, how is this, an ability to do in Windows? And yeah, you can lock things down, but we ran this on a very hardened machine from a government agency as a test that we, have worked for, and it still worked. It didn't require anything, and nothing will detect it. So the day of antivirus and even whitelisting of applications, this all looks like standard, normal Windows things.
And you're just automating what a user could do on their own, just not with mouse clicks. And there isn't a whole lot to it.
And you could theoretically blow away somebody's home directory and lose every single file that they store. You could completely ruin their computer or their experience. So, yeah.
If I could get back to the talk yesterday, to steal all the data that they shouldn't have access.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. They copy it locally to their machine. It's not that it's trivial to open up a web browser and actually have it, send files that you can control. I mean, there's a lot of things you could do to exfiltrate data without the user knowing, doing something like this. And, you don't have to use a USB flash drive to install it. You could have a download on the internet to get it. You could have a CD. I mean, there's a ton of different ways. You could probably fit this on a floppy disk if you really needed to. So, probably not a 5 1/4, but a 3 1/2.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we're probably way under our time, but we're willing to take questions. We can open up a discussion. Anybody have any ideas of what you could possibly do with this?
We can rock through some of the code if you want to see it.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate this thing doesn't work when you're apparently plugged into projector, but we're willing to disconnect the projector, get everything going on our end, and anybody that wants to actually watch it work and repeatedly work, we'll be happy to do that. So, anybody have any ideas of what you could do with this? This kind of hidden code ability?
I mean, we kind of saw it as more of a teaching moment for some security awareness for folks that you really do need to lock your computer if you're going to get up and walk away from it. And this is a good way of kind of shaming people into making sure you get your computer locked so that people can't get onto it.
So I can see an example for this. Sometimes when we do hack and defend kind of operations, and blue teamers will swear up and down that we're not in their network as from the red team.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you have to do things just to remind them, no, we are.
Yep.
So this would be a fun little something to leave behind.
I can see that this would help in networks where you've got that disparity between the guys that run the company and the guys in the ITIA security department.
Mm-hmm.
And the guys running the company just don't understand the ROI,
No.
return on investment. You can use this, instead of putting My Little Pony and shaming them, have it linked to a photo of what happens if that company's data is released. Another company's, a picture of depicting another company's profits going up, the company crashing and burning.
Mm-hmm.
Something in their mind that triggers in their mind, holy crap, this is a big,
Yep.
this could have a big impact on us. And this was a simple, when you go and tell them, this was 10 lines of code.
There you go.
See?
Yeah, this is nothing.
10 lines of code that's installable by anybody, not an administrator.
Yep.
Because I am not giving my IT guys enough money to enforce
Yeah, and all because I have 30 seconds
As a
uninterrupted.
teaching tool, you get embarrassed, but you can also educate.
Yep.
Yeah.
Using really bad pictures of the results.
Mm-hmm.
So if we switch this back, I think once you have the display that actually can handle that image, we have the display below the resolution of the image, it may actually work appropriately. So let's see, because this should run every 10 seconds now. And one of the things we noticed is that on XP it was really consistent. It would work instantly. on Windows 7, it was a little bit flakier. I guess the prioritization of processing that Windows 7 was doing was giving this such a low-level prioritize that when it would call the DLL, it wouldn't necessarily refresh it, but if the person locked their computer and then relocked it, or if they logged off or rebooted it, it would instantly be back to that image. So that was one of the things that was really annoying, that DLL just apparently has no priority to the system, settings. So this thing could be doing a Windows update on the back end for all we know. And that could be causing it to have some weird delay in the processing. But overall, it does update the image, relatively consistently, as you can see right there.
Yeah.
So the other thing that we did notice is that there was a persistent bug in the Windows random number generator where it actually didn't randomize it. It would just increment it by like somewhere around 7 to 10 numbers. So, but we found a workaround. If you actually execute the random number sequentially twice and take the second number, it was truly a more random, even though it's really not, it's still pseudo-random. So that was one of the weird things, that Microsoft still to this day has not resolved in their command line. So, I'm glad this works now. So, yeah, even if you delete this image, if you browse, because, Windows 10, they kind of broke down the ability to browse where your image is.
There we go, finally.
Now it's working. You could just go and delete it from here. It actually copied it from another directory in, so it's pretty annoying. And, it finally works. So,
So now do that in Ubuntu and...
Yeah, we actually talked about that. We if we had time. Unfortunately, I'm in the process of moving and I'm renovating a house, so I didn't have any time to try and write this. And with Brandon doing, another two talks, but if we come up with a way to do it on Linux or
it's pretty trivial to port this to
so
Bash.
We'll put it up on our GitHub and it might be.
But getting the ability to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, config files are probably where most of that stuff, without a registry, it may be actually a lot easier to modify that stuff. So, but yeah, it it's working now, thank God. But just for those, if you're going to go prank your office mates, if you go into the C drive, it actually creates a temp directory if it doesn't exist. There's an uninstall script. And all it does is kill the processes and then delete the directory. So we're not trying to be completely malicious and make it so that people can't figure out ever how to get rid of it. But yeah. So
I can show the code and
so we'll show you the code real quick and make things go a little bit longer. So the install script is just, if you look here.
Can people in the back see that?
So all it is telling you to do nothing when you execute the script, which means don't show any windows. So it's just executing the install script there. And then this script is pretty easy. It's just, quick bad code. Create a directory if it doesn't exist, copy things from one directory to the other, and then your startup registry entry goes right here on that line. And then it goes into my script is identical to the silent install script where it hides it, so we'll go ahead and skip that.
Oops.
Oh, probably shouldn't do that. So this is the fake one that I said to run every 10 seconds. But here's basically the random number generator in seconds between 1 second and 1 hour. And then your sleep.exe. So one of the things when we put it up on GitHub, we can't put sleep.exe or that image in there because we don't own it. But the Microsoft Windows 2003 server resource kit has it in there if you have that downloaded. Otherwise, if you just search Google for sleep.exe. There's some open source ones that people have written. They work identically. It doesn't matter which one you call. If it's in the same directory, it'll execute. And then it goes into the ponies, which is actually probably the more complex of all the scripts that we wrote. But it's just adding a few registry keys. And then the DLLs that it's calling is an old 32-bit, so it probably didn't exist in Windows 3.1. But yeah, this is a true DLL, even on 64-bit Windows 10. So apparently they, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But yeah, we were appalled at the effectiveness of it. That's it. And once again. So, and even if you kill the command window in the background, once you reboot it, it's going to start over again anyway. So, I'm going to go ahead and, since I occasionally use this at work, I'm going to go ahead and remove this before I forget. Does anybody have any questions? All right. Well, we talked a little faster than we had anticipated. Give you guys some time. So, thank you.
Okay.